Free agency has officially started, Rube.
Yeah, I guess things will start to heat up now.
It's already been a wild week. Third podcast in 3 days. This is the Eagle Eye podcast. He's Reuben Frank on Dave Zangaro. A bunch of news to get to, Reuben, and who knows, maybe there'll be more while we're recording this pod at just before 7 p.m. on Wednesday.
Wouldn't shock me.
It wouldn't shock me either. It certainly wouldn't shock me if it happens right after we're done recording. That seems to be the way things are going. A lot to get to. Darius Slay drama.
Slay.
We think Slay is getting released. Little fluid there. We'll talk about Fletcher Cox coming back on a contract. What does all this mean for CJ Gardner-Johnson? And then we want to talk about the Aaron Rodgers circus from earlier today. But let's start with Fletcher Cox, I guess. The most concrete of the news out of the Eagles world today. ESPN's Adam Schefter reported Fletcher Cox coming back on a 1-year deal worth $10 million. Says he had better offers elsewhere. I don't know how much better. I don't know if they really were better, but he's back. What do you make of the move?
And Mike Garafolo, our pal Mike, reported that the Jets were one team that offered more money, and Fletch preferred to come back to Philly. Hometown discount, $10 million. It's not a huge discount. It's less than he made last year with the $14 million. It's still a lot of money. Makes him a top 20 interior lineman as far as salary goes. But then you look at his production, and he was like 7th or 8th among interior linemen in sacks last year. He's not the player he used to be. He's not close to the player he used to be, but he's still if you just look at him as a veteran 6 to 8 sack type of guy, you're happy to have him, especially after losing Hargrave, because he was really your only other interior lineman who could get pressure on the quarterback. And Milton Williams, he'll get you a few sacks, and maybe Jordan Davis at some point will become someone who can do that. But Fletcher Cox right now, even in this will be year 12 for him. Yeah, he's a really good pass rusher, and he to do what he did last year, it was a real bounce back year. Didn't play as much as he had been as far as playing time and snaps, but he was really productive. And I think you just have to look at him as like a free agent defensive tackle and not the 6-time Pro Bowler who's not that player anymore. He's still a good player. He's still an above average interior lineman when it comes to pressuring the quarterback. And they're lucky to get him, because that's an area that they really needed to find somebody. And I'm not sure how else they could have done it. So when you look at their front, obviously they lost Hargrave, but you got Sweat, Reddick, and BG rushing the passer from the outside, and if they get anything from Derek Barnett, we'll see. And now you have Milton Williams, Jordan Davis, and Fletch in the inside. So there's questions on this team, but they've got some talent up front.
Yeah, I mean they do have talent. It's a weird deal, because Howie's warned against sentimentality before, and with Kelsey and Graham, you're not going to get any argument from me about sentimentality, because Kelsey's still the best center in the game. He's arguably one of your most important players. He's important for Jalen Hurts. He's important for the run. He's important altogether. So you no qualms there. Brandon Graham gets up to $6 million as a rotational third edge rusher, well below market value. The Fletcher Cox deal, the $10 million, it could end up being worth it, but I think it has the most potential that we look back and say, man, what were they thinking? They got too sentimental. They paid him too much. I thought he played well last year, and I think it is telling that he gets $4 million less this year after he had a bounce back season. It tells you how much they overpaid to keep him in 2022. But hey, they ended up getting to a Super Bowl. They had a chance to win it. You're okay with that result, I guess. But he's the one of the three that I think most falls into you worry about sentimentality winning out there.
Yeah, no, there's no question about that. And for two reasons. I mean, he's not the player that BG and Kelsey. I mean, obviously different positions, but Kelsey's still one of the best center in the league. BG last year was one of the best edge rushers in the league. Fletcher's not in that category as far as performance, and he's making more money than BG, making less than Kelsey, but Kelsey's kind of where he belongs at that position. So yeah, no, I totally agree. But it is, it's a position of need, a big time, and he's still a good player. So the 10 million, I'm kind of surprised how he did that. I actually had something written already for my 10 observations. My next one, whatever that.
I just want to interrupt you real quick. Surprised that he did it for what reason?
The 10 million.
Yeah.
I just thought, I didn't think Howie would go that high.
Okay.
I think we talked the other day about like where your number was, like how far down would Fletcher have to come to. I think I said 8.
Okay.
But yeah, I was just writing that actually in my 10 obs earlier today about how I think if Fletcher's number comes down to, maybe I just wrote it, maybe that's what I'm thinking. If it came down to 8, I would sign him. So 10 million is a little above that. And yeah, it is in that category of he's 32 and he has he declined pretty steadily up until last year. I think last year he, there were times he was really good and there were times he wasn't. So it's a little scary from that standpoint.
If he gives you the same production,
totally worth it.
Okay, then
totally
I guess
yeah. I think if he gives you the same production, it's very much worth it. But that's a question, because he's at the age where at some point he's gonna drop off for good. So we'll see.
That sounded really ominous.
I just mean like every player,
I know what you mean. I know what you're saying. He's gonna drop off for good. Dun 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 dun.
Yeah. So we'll see. It's definitely a riskier move than BG and Kelsey.
Yeah. I do think, and we talked about this before, once Hargrave was clearly out of their price range and $21 million a deal or a year will do that. I thought they still needed to add at that position. You're looking around maybe like Matt Ioannidis, or I know Taven Bryan got paid a little deal today. Like that wouldn't have been enough. The market dried up pretty quick for the other defensive tackles. So I thought there was always a much better chance of Fletcher returning once Hargrave left. And that's kind of what happened, I think. Once they realized they couldn't get Hargrave, they probably shifted focus a little bit and said, well, this position needs help, because as much as you like Jordan Davis, as much as you like Milton Williams, that's all you really have as known commodities, because Sue's gone, Linval Joseph's gone. You don't know what Marlon Tuipulotu is, and even if you can't rely on that. Marvin Wilson has played one NFL game, so it's a position where it's really important. We know they value it, and we know they just didn't have the depth there. So it makes sense from that perspective. And this is obviously all before the draft, where who knows? You just don't have any idea what's going to happen there. So I get it. It's amazing that all these guys are coming back. You're talking about Jason Kelsey, Brandon Graham, Fletcher Cox. You still have Lane Johnson on the team. They're still all playing at a relatively high level, like to varying degrees. And I think it says something that Brandon Graham certainly and Fletcher Cox to some extent were willing to take discounts to come back. I don't know if every organization has that.
Yeah, and just to put these guys' careers in perspective, David Akers has the franchise record. He's played in the most games in the Eagles uniform with 188. And then Dog is at 183 and Harold at 180. But BG's at 178. So he's 10 behind Akers. Kelsey's at 176. And Fletcher's at 173. So all three of those guys could, if they stay healthy, they'll break the franchise record or surpass the franchise record for games played. And there's no other team in the NFL that's got three guys who've been together for 10 or more years who haven't played on another team. And it's really amazing. The Eagles they've only had 4 guys play 12 seasons as an Eagle and not play for any other team, and that's Vic Sears, Chuck Bednarik, Bucko Kilroy, and Bobby Walston. So they all played in the 50s and 60s. So that's how rare it is to have a guy play for the Eagles for that long. And now you got three of them who've all come back. So it is a little, and because this is something Howie talked specifically about was not being sentimental and moving on and making tough decisions and telling
But I think
guys that he
for these
loves.
guys, you almost make exceptions. Whereas,
Yeah,
like, you look at like paying Alshon that contract was like, God, that was like the poster child of this thought process, right? It's like overpaying for guys who won a Super Bowl, but you knew were declining and weren't going to be worth it. At least these guys were still productive.
yeah, and Kelsey and BG, I would put, in a different class than Fletch. Like I don't know if BG will get 11 sacks. The odds are he won't. So
Imagine that though. He just finished his career with double-digit sack seasons.
But even if he doesn't, it's $6 million. If Fletch doesn't play the way he did last year, it's almost double that. So
yeah, when you look at like where they rank in terms of like average for their positions, BG is way down at the list. I think he's in the 40s. Whereas what's Fletcher with this one?
16th now.
16th,
and he was 11th,
and he's gonna be lower once all these new deals count.
Right. So,
but still, he won't be in the 40s like BG.
No, he won't be in the 40s. So it's I'm really curious to see what Howie says about all these moves and this one in particular, and just in general, the notion of bringing. We all were doing stories at the Super Bowl like this could be the last go around for these three guys, and now they're all back. It's like I think there's any chance all three would be back, and I thought there was a chance none of them would be back.
I feel like we've gone through this before with these guys.
Yeah.
The year's 2033. Brandon Graham's coming off a 50 sack season at age 45.
Yeah. Remember when he said he was going to get 2 sacks a game?
Yeah, I love that. That's 32 sacks.
Yeah. The record's what, 2022?
Yeah.
By the way, I won't be doing this pod with you in 2033. I'm going to warn you. You're going to have to brace for that. But you never know. Who knows? I'm sure
that's the same lines as talking about Fletcher and Kelsey and BG.
I know. Well, I'm not taking a hometown discount.
That's fair. I'm fascinated though, and it kind of goes to like a larger team building philosophy because Jalen's going to get the contract, right? It's going to be massive, but the next few years, it's not going to be the high cap hit. So you still have the ability to pay some veterans like this. Now you have to question who are the guys that are worth paying these deals and how you're going to allocate it. But you can kind of run it back to a certain extent. Now we know that they couldn't do it with all the guys. They had so many free agents, but the next couple seasons are still in that. It's not rookie money for Jalen, but it's not the massive percentage of the cap.
Yeah, and the other thing is these are all 1-year deals, so you don't worry about. Well, we'll see how they're structured with. Excuse me, dummy years, but.
My guess is they're going to just put void years on all of them, the max amount of void years, so it minimizes the cap hit in this season, and then it'll all escalate when those guys leave, which is going to leave a huge dead money figure. But Howie doesn't care about dead money, right or wrong. He just doesn't care about it.
Yeah, well, he shouldn't, because he got to a Super Bowl last year with what, $64 million in dead money, and they're gonna knock that out this year. So, and somebody did ask, like, what happens to Fletcher's dead money that already was on the books for next year? This doesn't affect that.
I like that you said it's still dead.
It's still dead.
I would like, though, maybe we can talk into the next CBA, like there's zombie money.
Like that.
Like back from the dead, you re-sign the player. So now a percentage of that dead money becomes zombie money and it counts less against the cap.
I like that. Just because I want to be able to write zombie money.
Yeah, I know it's fun. Maybe I'll bring that up.
Yeah.
I'll bother Howie about that. He's like, I'm trying to sign CJ Gardner-Johnson, but listen to me first about this zombie money idea.
Yeah, I think it's got a real chance.
Okay. All right, let's talk about Slay a little bit. It's a weird situation. It's been a weird situation since last Friday. I'll try to catch everyone up as best I can. Last Friday, reports started to surface that Slay had asked for permission to seek a trade. Really, Drew Rosenhaus's agent had asked for permission to seek a trade. At the time, we're thinking, okay, this is a tool to find out his market value. They're going to bring this back to the Eagles because he has this massive cap hit in 2023. The Eagles want to get that down. Slay wants an extension. He wants new money in another year or two. We figured, hey, eventually they're going to figure this out, a good compromise. And that didn't happen. They couldn't come to an agreement. So now, earlier on Wednesday, we find out the Eagles are planning to release Darius Slay. That's how it was termed to me.
Slay.
They're planning to release Slay. Has not happened yet as of 7:10 p.m. on Wednesday. I think it's still expected to happen, but there's a reason the Eagles haven't announced it either.
Yeah, and I mean, nothing surprises me anymore. But until it's official, they can still talk. And that's the thing about all these deals. Until 4:00 today, Wednesday, everything that happened Monday and Tuesday guy could change his mind.
Haven't seen that yet. Normally we see that. There's like
one or two
every
of
year.
those. Yeah. But as long as these Eagles property, if they think there's, because people change their mind. I mean, Slay could get a change of heart and say, look, I was wrong about this, and how he'd be like, let's look at these numbers again and see what we can do. And, if they want him here and he wants to be here and they're both willing to compromise, I guess it's possible. I don't expect that to happen, but.
Yeah, me neither. Sometimes once the toothpaste is out of the tube, that's my favorite saying. It's tough to put it back in. But I also don't think there's like bad blood either.
Yeah, I don't think so. It's really not that hard to get the toothpaste back in.
Have you ever tried?
Yeah, I do that every night.
What
do you do with your used toothpaste? All right, let's change the subject.
Well, I don't want to.
No, I've never tried to put it back in the tube.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
What do you think happens here? I think he's probably going to get released and signed somewhere else, but you never know.
You never know. And Slay's a really emotional guy.
He's big on respect. He just wants the respect. And look, the money, he wants the money too, but I think he views the money as an extension of respect.
Sure. Yeah, there's no question.
And he's not alone in that.
No, he's not. It's an unusual situation because of the cap, and they. I'm sure they have some. I think we differ on how dramatic his drop off of the second half of the season was. I think I feel it was more pronounced than you do, but they have to have some concerns. I mean, he's 32, and
I think the concerns for them is like really adding a year or two.
Yeah,
it's not about this year. It's about what's he going to be when he's 34.
Yeah, and that's valid. So it's a tricky situation. I don't think it's going to get resolved. I don't think it can at this point, but stranger things have happened.
Yeah. I mean, certainly. And so the specifics on the cap ramifications, I don't want to leave that out. He was set to have a cap hit of over $26 million this year with a $17 million base salary. The Eagles' idea was, hey, let's restructure this. We'll pay you a lump sum, get that cap hit all the way down. Maybe they wanted him to take a pay cut. I don't know about that, but that would make some sense too.
Sure.
If they release him with a post June 1st designation, which I was told is the plan, they would get $17 million in cap relief this season. The one big caveat with that is you don't get that until after June 1st. So you have to carry that full cap hit through that date. So it doesn't help you sign, like, that lump of cap space doesn't help you then sign Fletcher Cox or CJ Gardner-Johnson. It might eventually help you sign Jalen Hurts in June.
Right. Yeah. And that's, yeah. Well, you explained it. And you can agree with guys to deals and you just are going to execute the contract. But then, you wonder, like, what if, like, they agree with Jalen on a deal, but we can't do it until we get that, that cap money. And then Trevor Lawrence signs 6 years, 90 million, whatever it is.
Well, that can't happen.
I guess.
He's not eligible.
Not Trevor. Well, Joe Burrow, whatever. Yeah.
I know.
Pick your AFC quarterback who is eligible.
It'd be Burrow or Herbert.
Yeah, that's what I meant. I've been up since 5:30. Give me a break. Hey, I had Kaiser White playing safety on Huddle the other night. So
did you? He played safety in college.
Yeah, that must have been what I was thinking. No, I meant Kayvon. I meant to say Kayvon. I said Kaiser on the show, but it's everything's so complicated. But there's really no one you'd rather have kind of engineering all of it than Howie. I mean, this has always been his strength. I think he's gotten better as a scout and a personnel guy and a collaborator and a listener. But he's managing the cap and figuring out all this stuff and how all the pieces fit. He's always been really good at that. So he'll find a way.
Yeah. And with Slay, watch Baltimore. I don't want to read too much into cryptic tweets, but back-to-back tweets from Slay. One was eyeballs. Next one was a retweet of a Marlon Humphrey tweet. But that's more notable with Baltimore. Remember, Denard Wilson got hired by them. Him and Slay have a great relationship, and I think that makes a lot of sense for him. So I wouldn't be shocked to see him end up in Baltimore.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And their head coach is a former secondary coach. So that has nothing to do.
2 decades ago.
That'd be a good place for him, though. That would be close by. We could go down and talk to him in the locker room.
I would love that.
Owings Mills.
Yeah. Look, I mean, if Slay is done here, and I think he is done here, impressive 3-year run. He was a really good player, really good locker room guy. Like, he finally was a captain for the first time in his career this past season. He was a big piece of that locker room, and they'll miss him. Like, they'll miss him on the field, but they'll miss him in the building too.
No question. And I mean, maybe the funniest, not the funniest guy I've been around, because probably Asante.
I don't know. I think Slay gives him a run.
Yeah, they're similar too. Their sense of humor is similar. Slay is hilarious, but Asante was pretty funny. There's been a handful of guys who just, they just naturally hilarious. On the practice field, in the locker room, they just make you laugh. So,
but with Slay, I do want to mention, like, sometimes his humor and him being the clown overshadowed how good of a teammate he was.
I think that's fair.
Because there was a serious side in him. It would never show it that much, but like the work he did with his younger teammates on both sides of the football, like after practice, him and Devontae Smith's a rookie now, granted, a 10th overall pick. They're working together after practice, and Slay's spending the time with him, and he's talking up Zach McPherson, and he's working with.
He went down and worked out with Zach McPherson.
Yeah, I mean, he really went above and beyond as a teammate, and that's not why you pay him, but it's a really nice byproduct, and it's something they'll miss.
Yeah, and he talked about that. He would talk about how, everyone thinks I'm a clown and I'm just always joking and being funny, but he said when it's time to, to grind, I'm grinding, and he, he wanted everyone to know that. He takes the game really seriously. He takes preparing seriously. He studies his opponents as much as anyone. He's just a funny guy.
Yeah. Panning out here a little bit, we had kind of talked about the possibility of them changing gears and sticking with James Bradberry as opposed to Darius Slay. But and I understand why this happened. I understand the money aspect of it. I understand Bradberry's younger than Slay, and I understand everything that led to this point. All things equal, Slay's a better player to me. You'd prefer to keep him. Do you disagree with that?
I'm not sure.
Really?
I kind of do.
Okay.
I think
You
Bradberry
kind of agree or you disagree?
I kind of disagree. And I think Bradberry's trending a different way. I get that Bradberry
I don't
wasn't
know if he's trending anyway. He's kind of just a good, solid player.
He's so consistent, and yeah, I just and then you look at like next year and the year after, who's going to be,
And that's really the fair part about this, to look at the future.
Yeah. I'm a big James Bradberry fan, and I think if he's CB1, he could handle it. It's interesting. Some of the receivers that gave Slay problems weren't the superstar guys, but just kind of middle of the road receivers. I don't know if he was more focused for the Justin Jeffersons or whatever, but yeah, I just think Bradbury's got that consistency going for him. There were times he faced, the other team's top receiver. I mean, it wasn't like he never did. If I could have one or the other right now on a 3-year deal, I'd rather have Bradberry.
On a 3-year deal, definitely. Well, I don't know, definitely. But on a 3-year deal, I'd trend that way because Slay's going to be 35 at the end of a 3-year deal. I think sometimes when a team plays as much zone as the Eagles did, pointing the finger at one corner or one player gets trickier.
Yeah.
I think, and look, that could be the same with Bradberry too. So it goes both ways. But I still see a really solid elite level player in Slay. And yeah, I don't know how long he'll be at that level. And that's
the eye test. The last 6 or 8 weeks, I just didn't see the same player. And I don't know, maybe he was a little injured. Maybe he was never on the injury report. I don't know. The eye test told me he wasn't quite the same, and Bradberry was playing at a really high level. So, look, I think they're both really, really good players. Eagles are lucky they got one of them.
Oh, this one's not a surprise. Some news here. Miles Sanders likely has a new team. And when I tell you, it won't surprise you. Carolina Panthers.
There you go. Yeah. I thought maybe Buffalo. I was thinking that would be a good place for him.
Well, why does Carolina make sense? One word. Deuce.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, he looks at Deuce like his father. He told me once. So I mean that does make sense.
Sometimes you got to follow the coaching, and like the front office, and see those connections, because that it leads players to different teams.
How do you think he'll do?
Huh? I don't know.
I have a theory.
What?
I have a theory.
Let me first tell you, I don't know if he'll ever have a year like he just did.
I think the Eagles, they're so big into analytics, and the analytics say that running backs, when they get to that 800 career carries plateau,
you shared this already.
Oh, I did?
We've done too many podcasts.
I just thought of it today because I was looking stuff up, the Jordan Howards and the Ryan Matthews. I mean, just trying to think of. I mean, JJ was different because of it. I mean, he kind of went earlier.
Yeah. He almost doesn't count because of the chronic knee condition.
Yeah, I mean, LeGarrette Blount was obviously had, but that was a 1-year deal, and he was Yeah. So I just wonder if, because I mean, Miles is a good player. He's a really good running back. Um, he really wanted to be here. Did you see any numbers on that,
No
Carolina?
numbers yet. I'm fascinated to see what they are. There's just not money for running backs right now.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's going to be.
But like if he ends up getting like 5 million a year, then you say why would the Eagles want him? And you try to find a reason. Um, I mean, he's better than Penny. I mean, Penny, he's certainly more reliable.
Yeah, but they paid Penny a penny.
Right. They paid Penny 2 million, but he also has averaged 7 games a year in his career. He's averaged 64 carries per season.
Sure. But if
Uh,
there are two positions we know the Eagles will try to scrape by at for the most part, it's running back and linebacker.
running back and linebacker, you're right. Um, and from that standpoint, Miles, I mean, taking him in the second round was kind of uncharacteristic. He was a really good player.
Well,
I'm really curious what the number is, and I'm curious how he'll do down there. I
yeah.
think he certainly didn't hurt him that he had a really, really good O line
And Jalen Hurts.
and Jalen
I mean,
Hurts.
Jalen changes the numbers, so
Yeah. Um, I'm not sure he'll be a Pro Bowl running back down there. I wish him well. He's a good kid, and um, I hope it works out for him. But we'll see.
yeah, I'm not sure either, but wish him the best. He's a nice kid and played well when he was healthy here. So
He did.
we'll see. All right, catch all the sports action and more at Rivers Casino Philadelphia. Whether it's the money line or the pass line, there's something for everyone in a great sports book. Rivers Casino Philadelphia. Philly loves a winner. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. We want to talk about CJ Gardner-Johnson, who, as I'm saying this, just tweeted an ellipses. Twitter has ruined free agency for me. I am, I am too old to figure out what emojis and cryptic tweets mean. Yesterday, AJ Brown's tweeting about fruit and vegetables. I I have no idea what any of it means, but let's talk about CJ a little bit. The fact that Slay's not here, our own John Clark reported the Eagles have kind of refunneled their attention to CJ. What do you think happens here?
Uh, I have no idea. He's about the hardest guy to predict. Um, it's interesting that we're now in day 3. We're at the end of day 3 since this all started. So it's been, um, you know, I didn't think he would be out there still. Um, he's got to be asking for a lot of money. So he doesn't seem to be the hometown discount type of guy. But as the days go by, especially with, we'll see what happens with Slay, but uh, it's not like Slay's gonna make it easy to get him in under the cap, and I think he can do it. Um, I don't know. I've been saying all along I didn't think it was gonna happen. I think it's more likely now than it was a few days ago.
I agree with
But
that.
I don't have a really great feel for this just because he's such a, what's the word, mercurial. He's really unpredictable, and I'm sure Howie's kind of going through this right now as well. And I'm not sure, it'd probably be really hard to be his agent because he could change his mind. He could want this, he could want that. Um, he's a good player, and uh, he's not Jesse Bates, but he's a good player, and we'll see what happens. I still think I'm still going to say it's more likely he's not here, but I do think it's more likely than I felt a few days ago.
Yeah, and we were actually recording a podcast the other day when Jesse Bates got his contract, but it's a real outlier
Yeah,
in not just the safety market, but the defensive back market overall. I mean, DBs are not getting paid what I thought they were going to get paid. It's really a soft market right now. Jesse Bates got 4 for 64, a $16 million average. I mean, the other safety contracts, and they're not the same level of player, but I mean, Von Bell, 7.5 per year, Juan Thornhill, 7 per year, Donovan Wilson, 7, Jimmy Ward, 6.5, Marcus Epps, 6. Like, the numbers are down, and some of the other safeties are still out there because I think it's just not there for them. So if it's not there for CJ and it ends up getting down to that 11, 12 per year range, I think it's very possible.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what's happening here. I mean, we're 3 days in because people aren't paying D-backs. The cornerbacks usually are pretty highly paid. So
Yeah, not right now, which is what makes the Slay thing even stranger to me, is because you would think like they don't want to, they can't come to a deal with the Eagles, and you would think that's because Rosenhaus has gone around, chopped them a little bit, figured out his market, and says, "Hey, we can make this." But based on the deals we're seeing, I don't know if that's right or true.
Yeah. Yeah.
Huh.
It's free agency so unpredictable because every team has different needs. Every team looks at players differently.
It just always plays out so weird.
Yeah.
Like, and the teams' front offices put all these resources into trying to predict what's going to happen, and then things are just different than what they expected.
Yeah. Makes it fun though.
It does. It is entertaining. It's the best reality show in the world.
Now, what's your gut feeling with Chauncey?
I think he's back.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll see. That's just a gut feel, but that's been my gut feel for a year, a long time.
He hasn't been here a year.
I know. He was one of the guys, when Howie mentioned that he didn't want to do any deals during the season. CJ is the one where I thought, I wonder if they lose him because of that.
Yeah.
I think they could have signed CJ in October,
sure.
when he was still relatively new as a safety. And he, like, the reason he changed positions and came to the Eagles because he wanted that deal, and he wasn't going to get that big deal from New Orleans as a nickel. He comes to the Eagles. He starts off like playing all right as a safety. He probably would have accepted a deal.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to ask him next time he interviews you.
Oh gosh, yeah. Rashaad Penny. That deal's official, by the way. The Eagles announced some of their deals today. Rashaad Penny was one of them. The terms, from according to NFL Network, $1.35 million base salary, $600 guaranteed, a max value of 2.1. I'm guessing that makes sense to have heavy incentives in a deal for a player who hasn't stayed healthy, but just $600,000 only. Yeah. It's funny when we talk about this money, like it doesn't matter. It doesn't for them. It matters for us. 600,000 guaranteed. So minimal risk. And that's kind of what we assumed.
Yeah. I mean, it's really, there's no guarantee he'll even be on the roster. I mean, I could see if he gets hurt a week in a training camp and, doesn't practice, and, whether somebody else, whether it's a draft pick or, a Trey Sermon, whoever it is, has a really good camp. Yeah. You can cut him without much of an impact to your cap. But the upside is so big because he's so talented when he's healthy. And I did a little, let's see if I came up with here. Over the last 2 years, see if I can find this. Over the last 2 years, Rashaad Penny has the 64th most carries in the league. But he has the 6th most 30-yard carries.
He's explosive, especially at his size.
Yeah, he's got 13 30-yard runs over the last over the last 5 years since he came into the league. 13 30-yard runs, and he's 64th in carries. So he's a home run hitter. He's like Dave Kingman. It's like just
but he's even more than that, because like it's not like they're all just like these big bursts. Like,
right,
he's running guys over too. He's great after contact.
His yards after contact is higher than some running backs average.
Yeah.
So I think it was like 4-1 or something last year. It's crazy.
What's almost amazing is that even last year before he broke his leg, he was still that good, you'd assume at some point, like, these injuries are going to have a cumulative effect. Like, even when
Sure.
he is healthy, he's not going to be the same guy, but that hasn't seemed to happen yet.
Yeah. And it's been a little of everything. It's been hamstrings, calves, knees, broken leg. I think he had a broken fingers rookie year. So it's been a lot, and that is a concern. I remember the Eagles had a running back once who said he was always hurt. It was a similar deal. He wasn't as talented, but he said, "I'm not injury prone. I just get hurt a lot," which is kind of the same thing.
I love that.
That was an actual quote. Um, Look, I think the odds that he can, after 5 years, can magically stay healthy aren't great. Um, but if he doesn't, you're not out anything.
Hey, maybe, the Eagles had a really good season last year keeping guys healthy. Maybe he's looking at this team like, man, they kept Miles Sanders healthy for a year. Maybe I can get there and drink some of that water, some of
Yeah.
that water.
And, he's also going to be running behind an O-line that is going to limit his hits, you would think, compared to Seattle's O-line. And that's, who knows how that'll play out. He's a physical runner, so I'm not sure that's a huge factor. But yeah, I think he's also in a situation where he's no longer a first-round pick, and expectations of him in Seattle were, he was the 27th, 28th pick in the draft. Here he's a guy making $2 million total. So
If everything goes well.
if everything goes well, so you can give him 8 to 10 carries a game and try to reduce the risk. I still think they're going to bring another back in, but if they don't, I think what did I call it, the Kenny and Penny show?
Did you call it that?
Yeah, I did.
I probably blocked that from my memory.
It's awful. But Gainwell and Rashaad Penny, and then you have Boston, and you see what else. But they have the makings of a talented room, but there's no bell cow back, which is something they've had obviously the last 4 years with Miles. So we'll see what they add. I wouldn't be surprised if they draft a back somewhere.
Yeah. On the injury prone front, one of my favorite things is that Jordan Hicks has not missed a game
It's unbelievable.
since he left Philadelphia.
Hasn't missed a game, and
started every game.
He was always hurt. He was always hurt here. Really, really good player. But some guys just figure it out. So, they learn. I think that's something Miles talked about. He kind of changed his offseason.
4-year deal for Miles.
For who?
Miles.
Really? What did he get? You see numbers?
No numbers yet.
Interesting.
4 years. Wow.
Well, their coach likes to run the ball.
Wow.
That's
didn't think I'd see a 4.
Yeah, I didn't either.
Okay.
We'll see what happens.
See what those numbers are.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you can do things physically as far as the way, and Miles kind of looked, he said, what can I do to stay healthy, or at least to minimize the risk of getting hurt? And he did it. He played in all 20 games, did drop off a little at the end of the year.
I think maybe he left some of those notes in his locker for Penny.
No. No, but yeah, it's I think this is this is more the way running backs are trending in the league, that you're not paying these guys a ton of money. You're getting middle round, late round picks, you're claiming guys, you're getting guys off the street. And I think Penny's one of only 12 first round running backs in the last 14 years. I think something like that, since 08 or since 08. Yeah, people just don't draft him where Seattle drafted him.
Yeah.
So
one of those first rounders was released today, Ezekiel Elliott.
Yeah. Who's not that old. I was surprised. He's like
27.
Think of him as like 34.
But they
used him up. They did.
Yeah.
They did. I don't think he has anything left. It would be interesting to see what he gets. Like, if, these guys are
$3 million deal.
Somewhere. Yeah. Because he's got so much. He's talking about 800 carries. He had years where he's getting 340 carries a year.
Yeah, I have his stats in front of me. His highest year was rookie year, which makes sense. First round pick, run him 322 carries and 32 receptions.
Yeah, so that's
344
350
touches.
touches.
That's wild.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
It's a
The last
miracle that he stayed ambulatory as long as he did.
ambulatory. Look at you. I don't have a dictionary handy.
I do.
Last thing before we end this pod, because I do want to end this before more news happens and we have to keep talking. Do you see that Aaron Rodgers appearance on the Pat McAfee show?
I didn't.
You're the only one who didn't. There were like
I missed it.
500,000 people watching that today.
And I'm the only one who didn't see it?
Well,
So you're saying the population of the world is 5,000,001?
yeah.
No, I read some of the highlights. It's going to be a circus up there. I can't wait to watch it. We have some friends that cover the Jets, so I'm sure we're going to be giving them grief. It's going to be a clown show. I'm not
It
sure.
was like the peak of entertainment though, because since you didn't see it, he started off and he was like, well, when they drafted Jordan, you're like, you're going back to that. He went through like the history of it. He talked about his darkness retreat, and when he went into the darkness, he was thinking he was like 90% gonna retire, and he came out rejuvenated, ready to play. Looks at his phone. Uh-oh. Packers don't want him anymore. He's angry. He wants to go play somewhere else. It was fun.
Have you ever done a darkness retreat?
I would last 13 minutes.
Yeah, I was wondering how long I'd last. It'd probably be about that.
I was actually talking to our Birds Huddle producer, Mike Mulhern, about this. He's like, well, I figure like 12 hours because I would try to go in at night and just go to sleep. And I was like, all right, that makes sense. Like just sleep a long time.
What if you had to do it during the day? Like you're starting at 10 a.m.
I wouldn't like it. I don't like going into like dark places. Like, what do you think how long do you think it took his eyes to adjust? You know, like when you're like, you wake up in the morning and you're like, you can't look at the light yet.
Yeah, I mean, was it completely pitch black dark? Like,
I think
was
so.
the room sealed?
Yeah, I don't think there were like a night light or like there wasn't like a crease under the door. That would kind of defeat the purpose.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
sometimes I wish I had that in hotel rooms.
Yeah. Why are people so loud in hotels like at 2 in the morning coming back to their rooms? They just start like, yeah, see you tomorrow. Like,
I have a good hotel room tip for you though.
Yeah.
If you're not a nap guy. I'm a nap guy.
Not a napper.
Yeah, I'm a nap guy. So this will help any nap people. When you try to close the curtains, like they don't close all the way, and there's like that sliver of light. What you do is you go in the closet and you pull out one of the hangers for pants, has the clips. You clip the two sides of the curtains together so you can actually get some sleep.
Okay. Yeah, I can sleep in the sunshine. I can sleep. I mean, I don't need darkness to sleep.
But you don't take naps, so you're sleeping at night anyway.
I mean, I've been asleep during daytime hours before in my life. It doesn't bother me. Yeah, I can go to sleep. I mean, I think I have. I mean, I have taken naps occasionally.
When I was a little kid, like a toddler, my mom always said, like most little kids don't want to go down for naps. I would put myself to sleep. I would just say, I'm tired. I'm taking off, and I go to my room and go to take a nap.
Independent little Dave Zangaro.
Yeah. All right, let's finish.
Oh, one other thing.
Yeah.
Because this kind of affects the Eagles a little bit. Now, they don't have a backup quarterback, Jacoby Brissett.
Oh, good call. Yeah.
Commanders. I didn't see any numbers on that one, but he's in the division. It's just because he's such a Nick Sirianni favorite. I thought there was a chance he might be coming here.
Washington makes more sense for him.
It does.
Yeah. The problem is, like, I understand why Washington did it, but they have Sam Howell, and Jacoby's might be too good. Like, if Jacoby's clearly the better quarterback, then they have to play him. But Jacoby's not he's not a franchise quarterback. Right. So now you're just like, you're in that purgatory again, and you don't find out what the kid can do.
That's where they've been forever.
They can't get out of it.
That's where they've been since Theismann.
Pretty much.
I like Taylor Heineke more than I guess Ron Rivera does. I thought he was not bad.
He's spunky. I don't think he's like the guy you want to build around.
Maybe not.
Yeah. All right. If you enjoy the Eagle Eye Podcast, please rate and subscribe wherever you get your pods. If you're watching on YouTube, please click the like button and subscribe there as well. Thanks for watching and listening all this week. It's been crazy, and this is probably not the last time we'll talk to everyone. For
Tonight.
Rube,
It might not be the last time tonight.
yeah, for Rube, I'm Dave. This has been Eagle Eye. We'll probably talk to you soon.